Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and you're following the 3 H's of the channel. In this video, it's going to be all about the land down under, Australia. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, pull up a stump with me and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. So originally I'm Tasmanian, but the worst I've come across here is inbred crazy people and ghosts. However, I did spend some time in the Northern Territory a while back. It was Tennant Creek, Northern Territory, around mid-2000. It's not a great place, a terrible place to live. But this one day, a group of locals and tourists go for a walk out by, no kidding, Bunyip Creek, which is a bit of a giveaway. But about halfway through, I get segregated from the group. I find the creek, and a bush guide finds me. He's a local Aboriginal fella. His family's been there for generations. As we're talking and going to the bank, suddenly he pulls me back and gets real quiet, and we hear this weird rattling scream about 5 meters to my right. I look in the direction of the scream thinking, what the hell is that? And sure enough, there's this big hairy thing standing there, stooped over in broad daylight. The Aboriginal guy tells me to go back to the group. He raises his arms and starts talking to the creature in the local dialect. It looks at him and then shambles off. Apparently, we were the only two to hear it. You gotta love obviously tilted parkland where you see stuff like this. I've told this story quite a few times before, but basically to sum it up, my family and I went exploring a nearby cave, and we found a dead kangaroo that had been absolutely torn apart, and blood was splattered all over the walls. And then something else happened. Anyway, I decided to share it again. So I don't quite remember where this cave was, but I remember we walked to the entrance. It was about 500 meters from the road. When I get near the cave, I notice this nasty smell like rotten meat and stuff like that. I'm already scared after smelling this. I get out my torch and I shine it into the cave entrance. At first, I don't see anything, but I hear a noise somewhere in between a grunt and a squeal. I figure initially that it must be a pig. I approach it slowly so as to not scare it. When I get into the entry cavern, the smell is making my eyes water. I shine the light around and I see something in one of the tunnels that go deeper. It looks almost like a dog, but with massive lanky legs and a face that has its skin so tight that you can see its skull, with 2 pitch black eyes. It's standing over a roux that's had its insides ripped out. I start to calm down, thinking that it's just a big, freaky, starving dog. Suddenly, the dog stands up on its hind legs. Not smoothly either. It's like when you try to stand up after you get pins and needles. No fine motor control, just sudden spasming movement. I try to take a step back. The dog thing notices, cocks its head, and then lets out this ear-piercing shriek that sounded like nails on a chalkboard. The dog turns and runs deeper into the cave, still screaming. I run too, right back to the car and race straight home. Now, I don't know if this is the dog man that people talk about, but man, if it wasn't something out of the ordinary. Like I said, it ran off deeper into the caves, towards a couple other entrances that I think are way out there. I did a sketch of what it looked like. I'm only guessing at the standing height because it was scraping against the roof of the cave, so it could be anywhere between 2 and 2.5 meters tall. And one more thing to add is that I did find out where this was. It was the Limestone Caves in northern New South Wales. I think it's Quayumball National Park. It used to be a popular tourism spot, but the park has been slowly closing down lately. So I've had quite a few short experiences in my life. None of them are really worthy of making a long drawn out email for either one of them, so here they all are. At the time of this one, I was living in a small town. I was out for a walk in the evening with my mate. On the way back, we stop on a bridge, and then we spot this huge, massive, gorilla-shaped shadow squatting in the ferns below us. It aggressively raises its arms at us. We turn and run. Another one. I was living on a farm. It was in the foothills of a mountain. I'm sitting in the car chatting with my girlfriend at the time. I see this giant stick figure sprint out from behind a coconut palm. I dismiss it as a trick of the light. 2 days later, my mate comes up to me and tells me about the exact same tall, skinny, hunched-over creature that he saw the night after me, and I hadn't told him my story. Another one is, I was driving through the Tasmanian wilderness at night, and I shit you not, a chimpanzee or some other gorilla-type thing peeked out from behind a post at me. Another one is that I was driving through Queensland. It was still the wilderness at night, and suddenly, a glowing ochre-colored shadowy figure, like a shadow man with big bright eyes and a striped aura, appears in the road. I drive through it because there's no time to swerve or brake. It sends a violent cold shiver through my body. Another one is I was walking to the toilet one night. I see my mate peering through the window outside the toilet. He's grinning and asks me to let him in. But I realize that we are 2 stories up and it cannot be him. I have a violent seizure and black out once it realizes that I realize the deception. Another one. I was staying on my mate's farm. I was walking over to my outdoor sleeping area. Something human-sized in the darkness scurries away and makes a high-pitched hoo kind of sound. I also have heard yowies howling in the hills. And the last one I was meditating at a waterhole. I see a strong image of an old Aboriginal pygmy man in purple robes holding a staff with a golden eye on top. Later on, a kookaburra steals my lunch. The kookaburra has the exact same symbol on its eyes. And my note here is that I would love to hear the full story of all of these. And this next story was sent in by Rachel. So Rachel, I hope I can do your story justice. Bear with me on this story. It's pretty long, and there's a lot of seemingly insignificant details, but it actually all comes together. I'm not sure if it's a really spooky story, but it's my most recent experience, and definitely my favorite. This particular happening was at Zillman's Crossing, a spot that's situated at a small waterfall, if you could call it that, a tiny area of the Caboolture River, Australia. Caboolture is known to be pretty rough, and being a little lady, camping out on my own is probably not the smartest thing to do, but I've been prepared to go to a bush party which was cancelled last minute, while I was on the road too. Damn it. Being all packed up and pumped to party, I decided to have an impromptu camp night on my own, somewhere not too far from where I currently was. For those who know a bit about Oz, just up the road can range from about 10 minutes to over an hour's drive. I knew of a little day rest area that an ex-boyfriend had taken me once and decided it was a good spot to chill, smoke some weed, and head off early morning. It'd taken me about 40 minutes to get there, and by that stage, it was already nighttime. I set myself up in my shaggin' wagon and had a good time with some tunes, some beers, and a couple joints. The night itself was peaceful and lovely, the river flowing gently next to me, the crickets and frogs chirping merrily. I'm high as a kite, life's dandy. Come 6 a.m., and after a good rest, I woke to discover this beautiful spot was actually trashed with litter, or what I like to call moop, an acronym for mess of other people. This weighed heavy on my heart, considering it's such a beautiful area. I had some rubbish bags and a pair of gloves stashed from my work as a cleaner, so I decided to do what I do best and clean up the moop. This took me a good portion of the morning. I'd noticed a little white ute, or what I believe Americans call a truck, was parked a good 15 to 20 odd feet away from my wagon. I thought that it was unusual to see this, as I had heard no other vehicles pull up on the rocky dirt road, and I'd seen no other living souls apart from animals in the area. Being on my own, I decided to be vigilant with my surroundings. You never know. I figured I'd run into the other person eventually. Around 11 a.m., I'm finished cleaning the moop. But still, something about the land felt scarred and in pain. We'd had some bad flooding about 4 months prior, and I realized that the tiny waterfall seemed clogged, the swimming area all green and stagnant. My work wasn't done yet. I got in the river and started moving debris, rocks and sticks, throwing them here and there. I wasn't quiet about it at all, letting off some steam. I was angry that the local council hadn't done this themselves yet. I mean, it's literally their job. I start to wonder if what I'm doing is the right thing or not, and I feel uneasy about it. All of a sudden, for some reason, I feel inclined to look to my right, upstream. There's a modern-day First Nations Aboriginal man staring at me, dead still, standing a good 40 to 50 feet away on a massive boulder in the middle of the river. I have impeccable far-seeing vision, and I could clearly see the navy blue polo he wore with brown and white circular native dot artwork all over it. I look back to what I'm doing, but in less than a second, I do a double take. I plan to wave and yell out "G'day," but he's gone. It was less than a second glance down. I think, whoa, these bush fellas are fast to move. He must be the owner of the ute. And my next thought is to walk up to the track and find the spot he's on, as it seemed like a nice boulder to crack open a beer and have a joint after my hard efforts in the blazing sun. About 12:30 p.m., I feel that the river flows nicely. It's rushing down loudly into the swimming spot, moving all the slime around, and there's dragonflies and sparrows happily darting about. So I take off into the bush. Here's where it actually gets interesting. I can't find a path toward the location of the massive river boulder. Every trail leads to a dead end. I haven't seen the bush fella, and I'd want to have a chat and ask him how to get to the boulder spot where I'd seen him before. I'm starting to wonder because all these trails are thin of shrub. There's no way a person could pass without you hearing or seeing them. I'm terribly confused and frustrated. This area is actually tiny. Where the hell is he? I decided to give up and turn around. As I turn, I find myself face to face with an enormous black butterfly, sort if you were expecting a boogie. The exact same type of butterfly that my father loved so much before he passed away. A small side story, my dad spent a good amount of time with our First Nations people. He even had a paddock name and a boomerang given to him in his heyday. Before he died, he told me to look out for these butterflies, that they are him, and to always think of him when I saw them. So moving on with my initial story, I asked the butterfly out loud to show me the way. Without missing a beat, it flaps its wings and takes off into the bush. Lo and behold, there's a tiny trail hidden that I'd passed by several times trying to find a way through. So I go chasing this butterfly through the bush like Alice in Wonderland and her damn rabbit. Sharp shrubs are hitting my legs, twigs in my hair, cobwebs in my face. The butterfly darts left, then right, then left again, and lands on a gum tree, then closes its wings. I'm near the river again, and I manage to get my way to the edge. There's no boulder. Disappointment floods me as quickly as the river runs. I look right, upstream, and the boulder's only 8 feet away now, but it's in the middle of fast rushing rapids. It's deep. There's no way that a human could get out there, without getting absolutely drenched from the chest down. I'm stumped. Putting all the details together, it dawns on me. I start to think I've seen a full-body apparition. Across the river, I look up, and in the trees, what do I see? The same t-shirt the bush fellow was wearing, tied onto a high-hanging branch, but it's aged, faded, worn and torn. The navy blue was faded, but the circular dot artwork was unmistakably the exact same t-shirt. I noticed other clothes too, at least a half-dozen different garments, all hanging insanely high. I still don't know what this means, but my heart dropped. At that point, my curiosity was quenched, and I turn around to make my way back to the car. The butterfly is gone. I find my way out, meanwhile, realizing all the bugs, frogs, and birds are dead quiet, eerily quiet, but I'm not feeling anything malignant. When I get back to my wagon, the white ute is gone. No one passed me. The only person I saw was the Aboriginal man, or spirit. I don't think he was warning me. I think he was thanking me. The whole time I wasn't bitten by a single mosquito or hurt by stray branches. There's not even any cuts on my legs from the sharp shrubs. To end this story, I'm packing up my stuff to leave, and as if a switch was flicked on, carloads of families start rocking up, kids playing in the clean, cool river, partners laughing and drinking by the bank, biker boys all riding on black Harleys stop by. My dad also loved black Harleys too. I believed that I helped heal a hurting land and a spirit in pain. I believe I was feeling what the spirit was feeling, the heavy heart, the anger, and then the peace. Sometimes I feel like going back and checking it out again. I don't know. Thank you if you've made it through my experience, and much love from the land down under. So Rachel, I hope I could do your story justice. Thank you for sending that in. This is a very weird experience from 12 years ago. At the time, I was a corporal in the Australian Air Force Cadets. We have 2 squadrons and 1 flotilla of Navy cadets on a field survival exercise. Being trusted and experienced in the conduction of field trips, I am assigned a section, squad, 2 Navy, both male, 2 Air Force, both female, one of which was super cute and I was super into at the time. So it was day 1, sometime around 0 hours, that I'm given my orders. Basically, I have to conduct a survival training exercise to give the Navy a taste of the bush. We are then told about hazards and things to look out for: angry cows, leeches, cliffs, the usual stuff. We are told, quote, "The AO is a known drug-producing area. If you run into any civilians, they may be hostile." I doubted that we would, but I thought whatever, I'll keep it in mind. So, nothing happens the first few days of the exercise. By day 3, everyone's basically starving. We've only eaten 2 potatoes and a cup of rice each. I have my section gather wood to keep the fire going through the night, and I sketch up a picket schedule where everyone takes turns to protect the section while they sleep. At this point in the operation, nothing of the ordinary has happened, like I said. Night falls, and those who are not first on picket go to sleep under a makeshift survival shelter. 02:30 rolls around, and I am woken to protect the team for my 2 assigned hours. The cute girl is assigned the same 2 hours, so we're having a good old chat. About 40 minutes in, we are interrupted by the very distinct sound of human footsteps, snapping thin sticks under each step. The only thing was that the footsteps weren't gradual, as though something had walked up to the camp from afar. It sounded about 10 meters away and walked up to about 5 meters from the back of the shelter. It was as if whatever it was had been sitting there watching us since before we woke up. Something wasn't right about the rhythm of the footsteps either. I can't explain it, but I knew that whatever it was, it walked on 2 legs and knew that I couldn't see it. I immediately stood up to face the direction of the steps. At first, I thought that it was just a staff member coming to check on us, so I gave it the verbal challenge. 7. I waited, expecting someone to call out 6, because 7 and 6 add up to make the challenge number 13. But there's nothing. At this point, I had in the back of my mind that there's a slim chance that this could be someone involved in the local drug trade, so I wasn't going to shine a light on them and possibly give them a reason to attack me to protect their identity. You know what? It's probably just some smartass from a nearby section sneaking around. I grabbed my radio and commenced the following call. 0 Alpha, this is Delta 5, over. Delta 5, this is 0 Alpha, send over. 0 Alpha, Delta 5, do you or any other call signs have units in the field? Over. Delta 5, 0 Alpha, wait out. My eyes were fixed on the last place that I heard footprints, and I wait the longest 40 seconds of my life. The first 2 feet of the tree line was lit with the orange glow of the fire before plunging into darkness. Delta 5, this is 0 Alpha, negative. There are no units in the field, over. I immediately grab the girl with my left hand and pull her behind me, while simultaneously pulling my Gerber LMF from the sheath strapped to my thigh. The thing begins to move again, walking around the camp just on the edge of the fire's light. I pull out my torch. The footsteps stop. I shine the light directly at where the thing should be, but there's nothing there. The footsteps stopped only 1 to 2 meters back from the tree line, so it's not like I miscalculated where to shine the torch and it didn't run off. I swept the area with the light and found nothing. I turned off the light and called for backup. The thing starts to move again from roughly the same spot that I had just shone the torch at. It moves deeper into the bush and stops about 10 meters in. I felt like it was still watching. Moments later, 3 military personnel with bayonets rock up and begin to sweep the perimeter while I protect the section. They walk right out to where it should be and find nothing. They dismiss it as a kangaroo walking around. You have to understand, the footsteps of a human-sized creature walking on 2 legs is very distinct. A kangaroo's feet are long and disperse their weight, not to mention they use their hands to help them walk. If not, they're jumping. Something sinister was moving through the bush that night, and it was no kangaroo. So those encounters were pretty intense, weren't they? If there was one in particular that stood out to you that you liked the most, let me know which one it was down in the comments. As always, if you have one of your own, or if you would like to donate to the channel or support the channel, there are links for all that in the description. And on a personal note, I've always wanted to visit Australia, but I also really don't like the spiders there. I don't mind snakes. I think snakes are cool, the same as all the other wildlife. But man, do I hate big spiders. And I even see sometimes people on the internet are like, oh, but spiders are like pest control and they do all this good stuff. And I'm like, a spider typed that. A spider made that comment. But I actually would like to go visit Australia, especially this time of year where I live, it gets very cold. And if you go outside, the air hurts your face. And then you're wondering why you live somewhere where the air hurts your face. But here we are. It's actually not even that cold here yet. It's -2 Celsius, which I think is somewhere around 28 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe a little over or under. But usually it doesn't get really cold here until like January, February. which Australia is having like their spring and summer right around then. So you see why I want to go there during that time, because it's not going to be cold there. But that's just me rambling about why I want to go to Australia and see all the websites, see all the tourist sites and all that stuff. And with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that you'll tune in for the next one. And if you liked the video, then feel free to subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump with me. And thank you for watching. I'll see you Friday for the podcast.